Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Gregg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. And I brought Josh Brumley on to discuss a lot of things in his world. He's an attorney out in Washington State, one of those rising stars. 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, super lawyer, all that stuff. So we're going to talk about a bunch of how you doing, Josh? I can't do all the time.
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, just so you know, and I know you know, it's today is Monday, solar eclipse day. So I hope you have your eclipse glasses for the next half an hour, because you never know what could block your view when you get out to the chase. Now, I'm just kidding. All right. So we're going to talk, everything from punk, ethics, and law, know your rights 101 with insurance companies. I know in the audience, you've heard car crash, call Josh. This is Josh. He's also got a podcast, Iron Mind podcast, and he's writing a book, Protect Your Neck, which we're going to get into. Let's get right into Protect Your Neck. How do you have the time? You're doing a podcast, you're representing all these people, and you're writing a book. So let's talk.
It's a lot.
The book. How do you have the time to do this?
I lucky for me, I'm just a single guy with a dog that comes with him to work. So I just work my 12-hour days and work on the weekends, and that's how I find the time. No other social life. Just work, and I love it. And the book has been an incredible project. I think a lot of people are trying to become authors lately with like Chat GPT and stuff like that, but I'm doing it the old-fashioned way and really sitting down and taking the time to put out a product that I'm really proud of to give out to my clients, and I think it'll help a lot of people who aren't my clients who are dealing with car accident cases in any state. It's the advice that if I sat down for an entire day and worked through someone's new car accident case with them one-on-one for an entire day, this is all the advice I'd discuss. So I had to sit down, get it out of my brain, put it all on paper, and it's still a work in progress, but we're hoping to have it released by the end of summer.
And who should read this book? Lawyers? People that have car crashes?
I think that there's benefits to everyone. This is something that people would benefit from knowing before they're in a car accident. And lawyers who are practicing in this world might be reminded of what it's like to be doing these intakes, doing the initial phone call with someone who's been injured in a car accident, where they kind of blaze through that process a little bit. You don't get that one-on-one feel after a firm has reached a certain point, because the attorneys are just so busy. And that's something that is really hard to give that client-focused service that we strive for at Brumley Law Firm. That it's just difficult. It's difficult when you're busy, but that's what every client deserves. And that's what this book hopes to help refocus the industry on.
All right, nice. And I know you're big into communities and how firms can better support their communities. So what do you see as the problem with lawyers and the communities that they're involved in, or that they should be involved in?
Well, lawyers have this unique superpower that can help so many people in so many different situations. And, I think a lot of lawyers have a hard time spending volunteer hours somewhere. I think a lot of lawyers like to donate money, and that's super important. But legal aid organizations won't exist if there are not volunteers to run the legal aid organizations. And so donating time is incredibly important to these organizations to help people understand what their options are, what they're going through. And I don't practice family law anymore, but I help run a family law clinic, and family law clinics are overwhelmed with need. And the need that they have from a licensed attorney point of view is not need for seasoned family law veterans, but for attorneys to just help people understand how service of process works, or how to file something in the local court, or what's the judge, what do I call the judge when I go up there? What do I need to say? What can I say? And so these are really basic, like, civil procedure questions that any attorney with any courtroom experience can answer and help people feel more empowered. And that in turn takes burden off of the court system, makes the court process streamlined because these people are able to understand what they need to do to prepare for their court hearings as pro se individuals. And that kind of pressure is relieved and benefits everyone who's practicing law. So then trials are going when they're supposed to go, and hearings aren't pushed, and attorneys aren't sitting in court for 3 hours waiting for their case to be called. So there's a lot of benefit to educating our communities and empowering individuals who don't have the money for an attorney to just feel like they can do this on their own when they don't have another option.
And yeah, I've been doing the legal world. I was going to say the legal game, but then I don't know, that might not be the right word. I've been an attorney practicing for over 30 years, and I started out doing environmental stuff. So I was involved with the nonprofits, and I felt like, all right, I'm, contributing, pro bono time and trying to help out. And then I moved into the disability world. But now I'm sort of out of that, and I'm sort of, looking for my next angle. And I really think that one thing that could be done to help get a bunch of lawyers to actually do what you're saying is to sort of develop a platform where lawyers can go in and say, all right, this is what I can do. All right. You got to kind of spoon feed these lawyers so that we're not, feeling like, boy, we're going to get in and then we're going to get overwhelmed. And then it's just going to mushroom into something that, basically becomes like a second job or even like the primary job. So that's kind of one of the things that I think that some of these legal aid organizations need to perfect is outreach and helping us, get a discrete thing that we can do, even if it's one client on one matter, it kind of makes it a little easier for us to fill in our calendar. But that's besides the point. I appreciate that you do, have that attitude, because I think a lot of lawyers, that's just not on their radar. They're happy to do their thing and all that. All right, we're going to make a rapid left turn into one of my favorite topics is Know Your Rights 101. Insurance, police interaction, and liability are the things that you profess to me. You can give us a short 101. Let's do it with insurance. You're on the clock.
So people don't know how many drivers are hitting the roads every day who are uninsured. And every state has different statistics about this. But if you don't have UIM coverage on your policy and you're hit by a driver that doesn't have insurance, there's no way to recover money. And so understanding what UIM is and that it is an incredibly inexpensive additional coverage for you to add on to what you already have if you don't have it, and understand that if you're catastrophically injured by a driver who doesn't even have the money to cover themselves for the minimum insurance in Washington, which is $25,000, you're just out of luck. And that's a phone call I hate having with people. So understand what your insurance coverages are. They're not written in a way to make them easy to understand, but it is worth its weight in gold to invest that time. And my book will help to decipher those coverages for you.
The disconnect between the insurance world and us in terms of like getting a good policy, I think is a major issue. And so, we in Florida, we refer to it as coverage. And, when an auto accident pays, what we're hoping that there's some because at the very least, get some recovery for your client. And I think really what goes through people's mind when they get auto insurance is, how do I get the cheapest policy? That's it.
Right.
There's no like, okay, this is like an investment. you're buying, insurance to protect you, your medical bills get you, time off and wages paid. I think that that's really the insurance world, I think, needs to get better at communicating with that. I think they're just happy to issue a new policy and go, move on to their next target. All right. So, all right, have we covered the insurance, or is there more to the 101?
Oh my gosh, I could go on for hours, but you wanted
Okay.
my elevator pitch, so that's the elevator pitch.
Okay, give me two more 101 on the insurance. Give me your next two top of the
Insurance companies aren't your friend. Don't make statements to the insurance company without a lawyer. Lawyers in this specific industry work on contingency fee basis, so there's absolutely no reason not to include a lawyer in the process to help you know what your rights are before you say something contrary to your interests. So have a lawyer. Talk to a lawyer before you talk to the insurance company, even if it's your own insurance company. Sometimes the person who hit you has the same insurance that you have, and they're even more inclined to not have your interests at heart. So understand that insurance companies are a business. They're in a business to make money. They're not in the business of paying out money to you, even when it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready to move on to the police interaction, or you want to give me your
I
third?
think police is a great one too. Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right. I started out in the police brutality world back in the Rodney
wow.
King, when Rodney King, but that's I'm dating myself, and you probably don't even know about that. But that was the
Of
hot
course
thing.
I did. Come on.
Come on. I don't know. I'm feeling, like, wow. I was out last night and I was talking to somebody about some music, some song or whatever, and they had no idea what I was talking about. I'm like, the Bee Gees. The Bee Gees were playing. And they were actually, the Bee Gees are from Miami Beach. And I know this cut to the chase.
Oh, I didn't know
I'm not supposed
that.
to do that, but I was at Miami Beach, the golf course, and I asked the lady that was serving me, and she looked like she was in her 30s. I'm like, do you know that this band actually lived across the street? And she had no idea who the Bee Gees, but she did know the Beatles. Anyway, all right, we move on. Police interaction. What are your best tips here?
So I think people are really worried when they have immigration concerns or other bad experiences with law enforcement, and understanding that when you're the victim of a car accident, you really want the police to be there. You really want the police to be involved. And sometimes they don't come even when you call them. They have, bigger fish to fry. But understanding that if you have immigration consequences, that's not going to be, at least in Washington State, the primary concern of a police officer responding to a car accident case. And so we do a lot of Know Your Rights events at local community centers where people have immigrated to the United States and are in different levels of that process. And so they might have a little bit of fear of saying the wrong thing, or have a language barrier that prevents them from even communicating to the other parties involved in a car accident. But understanding, especially those less served communities, that you really want a police officer to document how the accident occurred to protect you from that person who crashed into you, blaming you for it later on. And so a lot of times we see people say, no, we don't need the police. We don't need the police. They drive a block down the road and then they call the police and say that you were involved with a hit and run. And they can say, they can make that narrative whatever they'd like. So understanding police involvement, however scary it might be, incredibly important. And if the police officer is simply too busy to make an appearance, there's still the opportunity for you to file a police report online. It's not as persuasive, but it's something that at least documents your side of the story. Again, an attorney should be able to help you to do that. And we don't know that you were in a car accident until you reach out to us. So please reach out to us, let an attorney know, and understand that you're not paying the attorney for these phone calls. Your attorney is only working on these cases to help you maximize the level of settlement and get paid at the end of the case. So there's absolutely no downside in having an attorney involved from the moment the accident occurs.
All right. So now we're going to make a complete right turn, and we're going to go to how do you select your lawyers, how to vet them, and all that. I mean, in the old days, before your time, people would get in an accident and they'd be like calling their brother or their sister who was the only smart one in the family, and they would refer you to whatever lawyer they knew. And now we've gone like completely on the other spectrum where it's like bus benches, you're getting hit over the head. You don't even realize with the geofencing, you came out of a hospital, they already got you tracked, they know what's going on with you, right? And so how do you vet the attorneys? How do you select them? And I know you're like big with the 411 in litigation avoidance. So let's focus on this one.
I think understanding that lawyers who are good marketers aren't necessarily good lawyers, and understanding that good lawyers are lawyers who have gone into court. And here in Washington, there are a lot of lawyers who are really reluctant to file a lawsuit. They want that easy turnaround. They want to have a mill where they can just send a demand letter, negotiate a little bit, and then close the case. And the client doesn't know what the true value of their case is the way that the lawyer does. And if the lawyer is motivated to resolve the case quickly, that's not going to be a maximum value case. And so asking good questions, understanding if your law firm has ever filed a lawsuit, when the last lawsuit, how many lawsuits they filed are, in my firm, we're somewhere north of 30 lawsuits filed a month. And I don't think that is a common thing for firms of our size in this industry. I think that, there are big firms in the area who really want those, plane crashes and train crashes and things like that. And so they have a great reputation, but the run-of-the-mill car accident with one plaintiff is really not their bread and butter. And so these firms with these very experienced high-level litigation attorneys are really not going to pay as much attention to your case if you're in a broken arm, the local 1-car, 2-car situation. So knowing that there's this sweet spot between those mill type law firms where they just want to get your case out the door, and these huge law firms that want plane crashes and train crashes and everything else, you got to vet. It's like an interview process. These are people who need to know what tools are at their disposal and have their teeth sharpened in a way that they're not afraid to file these lawsuits. And the insurance companies track this stuff. They know what attorneys don't file lawsuits. They know what attorneys just settle the cases for low value, and that drags the industry down. And those are attorneys that don't have a great reputation. And so ask around. Don't just take your brother-in-law's advice or your Google ads advice, but read up on these lawyers, understand, do they really know what they're doing? Do they have their finger on the pulse with the industry? Are they trying cases? When was the last trial that they had? Those are important questions to ask in the beginning of the process. And a lot of times people don't want to tell their story multiple times to multiple attorneys. So understand that your first phone call with a lawyer, it can be just an information gathering phone call. Don't let them pressure you into signing a fee agreement, because that's that car salesman aspect of this industry that gives us a bad name. When you call my office, my staff is going to educate you, help you understand the process. And then if you need to get off the phone and make more phone calls, we're going to encourage that. I don't mind you calling other firms, because in this industry, especially in Washington State, everyone charges the same. So you're not price averse when you're calling all these other law firms. We're all charging the same, 33 1/3% to sign you up. But the difference that you're searching for is service, not price, but service. And understanding when someone is pushy and they're hungry, there's probably a reason for it. They're probably a little predatory. And that's just not what we do here. It's the car salesman aspect of this industry that just is nasty. And so we're happy to educate you. We're happy to sign you up. But if you think another law firm is better suited, that's no problem. I'm happy to take over the case when you realize that maybe they weren't. the best suited attorney for you.
All right, so are you going to have like a chapter on this in your book, Protect Your Neck?
Yeah. I think it's important to know that when you move from one law firm to another, you're not paying two attorneys' fees. The attorneys actually work that out between themselves to determine what is owed to either lawyer. So you don't have to be in the middle of this awkward breakup conversation. You just sign up with the new attorney, and then the new attorney sends all the information to the old attorney and says, "Hey, your client was unhappy, and now we're taking over. Send us the file."
Yeah, I definitely liked your point about the asking the lawyer how many, if they're trying their cases or whatever. I think really the question is, how many cases have you had a jury trial in, let's say, the last 2 years or 5 years or something like that? Because if,
Yeah.
like you said, the insurance companies, they know your lawyer. So if they know your lawyer caves in, doesn't want to
Yeah.
go to trial, I'm sure they have little profiles on all of us. And,
Oh, yeah. And they share that information internally with other companies. So,
yeah.
the insurance companies are a united front. They all win if they can beat down the plaintiff's attorneys. So there's no reason that they wouldn't share this data among themselves. And if they can resolve a case for double the medical bills with one lawyer, that's what the
Yeah.
offer is going to be every time. And that's not a good offer. And that's not something that we take. And that forces litigation a lot of times at our firm, because we're just not going to settle a case to just get it across the finish line.
Yeah, and I do think at the very least, you got to check out the law firm's website. Some law firms and lawyers don't even have it. And I've heard their excuses or whatever, and it's pretty sad. To me, it's an indication that you're not capable of using technology. And these days, you have to understand it. The people have to understand that your lawyer has ethical obligations to know the state of the art technology and to be able to use it to advance your interests. And if they don't have a website, boom, move to the next. I say, don't listen to their BS about why they don't have a website or whatever. But
Yeah. Especially post COVID, there's trials that are happening that are completely on Zoom, and there's so many attorneys that are just tech unable to do that stuff. And you don't want to be caught with an attorney who doesn't know how to work Zoom doing a Zoom trial for your $1 million case. That's scary.
this is the category of, I'm not going to mention names, but you know who you are.
But everybody knows somebody who's like, "Hey man, I don't know how to work Zoom."
All right, now we're going to circle back to the communities and all that. And I want to know why you're so motivated to empower vulnerable communities. What is it about you, Josh Brumley, that makes you that way?
I was raised by a single mom, and over my childhood, I watched my mom deal with domestic violence. And that was really, really tough from my point of view, tough from my mom's point of view. And she had to take advantage of a lot of resources in our community that, thank God, they existed. And those resources helped my childhood, helped my mom get through situations where she was extremely vulnerable and taken advantage of by these terrible men. And that is something that I really want to pay forward with my career. And so protecting people who are victims has just always been the nature of why the law was appealing to me. And any way I can do that with people who are underserved in communities is beneficial to the world.
Okay, I love it. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast, from one podcaster to the next, to Iron Mind Podcast.
Yeah. Iron Mind Podcast. We put out an episode every Thursday. The nature of the podcast is really educational. So there's, a bit of learning on every episode. That's really important to me. My staff listen to it, other attorneys in the area listen to it, and other business owners listen to it. I think that there's different takeaways from every episode depending on who the guest is, but there's a guest on every episode who's got some insightful advice that is relevant to my practice or relevant to me being a business owner. And so being a fly on the wall for those conversations and understanding that, if you're running a business and hoping to scale it to the next level, then the CEO of Active Healthcare that has over 1,300 employees and started right here in our backyard as a local mom and pop shop, he's probably got some advice that's relevant to you scaling your business. And technology with deep fake technology and understanding what the rules of professional conduct require for disclosing information when people's, voices can be mimicked now, and all this different stuff that can be happening with phishing and gift card emails and all this stuff. So having tech people on my podcast to help understand what tools are available to help law firms train their staff to not be taken advantage of and to not get the attorney into hot water with disclosing information that they shouldn't be disclosing, or getting phishing and hacked and all this crazy technology stuff that it's above my pay grade. And I like to think I'm a pretty tech savvy guy, but there's a lot of people who are what my guest Amber Benwee said was junior in the hacking world, just entry level, who are taking advantage of law firms left and right. And once they have access to your data, you have to put your malpractice on notice that this has happened. You've had a breach. You have to plug the breach, and sometimes they're holding your data hostage, and they want bribe money, and paying that bribe money is a felony. So understanding that is like, oh my gosh, there's so much that goes on to this that the lawyers are not paying attention to. The legal industry has been incredibly slow to adapt to technology. And I don't want my firm to be on the losing side of one of those conversations. So having those conversations with people like Amber, who is a data defense person, that really, really great, insightful information about phishing and tools that are available. Just every episode, just chock full of different stuff.
Yeah. People ask me, say, Gregg, why do you do a podcast? And I'm like, well, good question. But, on top of meeting people like you, interesting folks, developing relationships, I also oftentimes select certain topics that I want to learn about. And I could sit here and I could say, all right, I could, go do some YouTube class or whatever. Or I just bring somebody up and I'm like, all right, here are my 5 questions. Answer them or else your show is not going well, and then I'm like, wow, that was pretty productive, but and anyway, all right, we're going to end on my last topic here, one that
Okay.
very inspirational, I think, but you're going to have to bring some color to it. Punk ethics in law.
Oh man. So the punk background that I come from is really focused on community, and the ethics that I've been indoctrinated with from being a local musician in the Seattle area have really shaped my practice to be more focused on community building and community engagement and being a resource for people, more than being a business owner and trying to be a capitalist and make money any way I can. So understanding that those ethics have shaped what my business has become, and finding people who have those similar ethics has been incredibly easy when those ethics are part of the mission and the goals of the organization. So if you're listening to this and you work at a law firm and you don't enjoy working for that law firm, understand that there are lots of lawyers out there. Not all lawyers are created equally. And from a boss point of view, understanding that people who care about their employees are going to have happier employees, more productive employees, and people who encourage community engagement. For example, my firm offers 40 hours of paid time off for nonprofit service on top of your normal paid time off. So if you have an animal shelter or a food bank or something that's just near and dear to your heart that you want to spend time volunteering at, but on a normal week, it's hard to get away from your 9 to 5 and go do that on the weekends. So I want to encourage that community involvement. I think it pays dividends for the communities we live in, but also it's an additional element of marketing to have out in the community someone who's happy to have worked with my law firm and to be out. Yeah, my boss is paying me to be here volunteering at this food bank today. People love hearing that, and so there's only wins in those situations, and I'm happy to be that type of boss, and that's something that I think punk music has really shaped how I practice the law and how I run a business, how I treat people.
Nice. Joey Ramone right now is smiling from wherever he is. I think we're going to end it on this note. This is a good, positive, uplifting note. Not that the rest of the show has not been, but again, car crash, call Josh. All right. You want to get educated on another podcast besides mine? Iron Mind Podcasts. And this summer, we're going to be seeing Protect Your Neck, which is going to have a lot of helpful information, selecting your lawyer, learning about the process, not taking the first $1,000 that the insurance company calls you up because they're being so nice, things of that nature. Have we touched everything today for the most part?
That's it, man. Car crash, call Josh. Thanks for having me.
All right, my man. Listen, that'll do it for this episode of Cuts to the Chase. I want call to action, subscribe, rate, and review. If you have hey, Gregg, we would love for you to cover this topic or this guest, or you want to be on my show, whatever, YouTube, my channel, put little comments. I take a look at them every night about 3 a.m. when I can't sleep. That's what I do. That's what you'll find me doing. All right, folks. Josh, thanks for coming on the show. We'll be in touch, all right?
Thanks for having me.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.